All right. Good morning, friends. Decided to come to a coffee shop slash brewery for more reliable internet than I have at my house. So I hope that this works well for everybody um, and that it is in good shape. So, hello, Elise. As always, you can use the chat to ask any questions that you've got and move from there. So happy to answer any questions that people have and talk through things and that kind of stuff. At least you've got a lot of really awesome things going on. You can find any vine borers. Oh, some moths too. Yeah, squash vine borers are, just so everybody knows, they are really, really terrible. And I've stopped planting vines in the spring. I wait until this time of year to plant zucchini. So I planted my zucchini last weekend um, and that kind of thing because I just get tons of squash vine borers and it's really bad. And so by delaying seeding, it helps. I still get zucchini. And, you can only have so much zucchini, so it works out well for me, but I don't have nearly as much as some of the folks do for squash vine borers. Yeah, hopefully it is a big enough of a delay. I started. Been surprised. I've had cabbage moths around for a while, but I haven't had any cabbage moth caterpillars, larvae, and I found some eggs today for the first time, which is really interesting. So I'm not sure what's going on with there if I'm not looking closely enough or what the deal is, but we've got those that are there. So we are going to get started on things and so I wanted to do things a little bit differently today. And I've just got some things to share here. Let's see if I can make this work. Share this screen. Nope, did that wrong. There we go. All right, so hopefully you can see. So this week is pollinator week, and it is across the U.S., so it's pollinator week everywhere. I just want to talk a little bit about the importance of pollinators and also some things that we're doing here in Minnesota. So you may or may not know that I'm a member of the Minnesota legislature, and so we did a ton of work this session on pollinators and being pollinator friendly in Minnesota and getting things done. And so I'm really proud that my bill, this one here, Launch Legumes, was my bill, and we passed that. One of the first things that we passed in session. So $4 million. So if you're in Minnesota, what that does, right now they're accepting applications. And so if you're in Minnesota, you can apply to the program and get up to $500 of expenses reimbursed. So you have to pay the money first and then submit receipts. And so it's up to $500 worth of expenses that are reimbursed. And we have $2 million a year in perpetuity for Launch Legumes. And so that is for planting, removing turf and planting pollinator friendly plants and doing a lot of good work that way. So I'm really proud and excited about how that is going and where we're at. So other things that are happening in Minnesota from Pollinator Week is enhanced landscape programs, conservation reserve programs, or CRP, which will allow for a lot more pollinators. And I'm really sorry, I've got a cold that is just hanging on and won't go away. So we've also banned neonics on state lands, and so this is neonics are pesticides that are particularly harmful and deadly to pollinators, and so that is really, really good there. Then we also have a lot of habitat protection that we did, and then also helping people for beekeeping and making sure that we were restoring habitat, and then also plant-friendly labeling. So it's really, really exciting and a lot of really great stuff happening for Pollinator Week that we can celebrate here in Minnesota. And hopefully you can take these ideas for wherever you're at in whatever state you're in and go from there. But some other things that are blooming right now. So the butterfly weed, this is a type of milkweed, and so it's a really great, or really, really great plant to have in your landscape. The butterfly weed is just starting to bloom throughout where we're at here in the metro. So that's a really great pollinator plant. Some other natives that are just starting to bloom that I wanted to highlight are spiderwort. So spiderwort is a really cool plant. It looks great all year long. It blooms early summer. And then sometimes you get another bloom in the fall as well. So that will come around that way. And then this is primrose. And so there are different types of primrose, evening primrose. And this one is native to Minnesota. There's some that are native just south of Minnesota that go into Nebraska and some other places. And so it is a really, really great plant, and it's super showy. It looks wonderful. And then show another one that's really great for pollinators. It is not native. It is also invasive. And so this is crown vetch. Crown vetch it's been used forever on roadway ditches and on hillsides and things like that. And it does a really great job. I just noticed there's some, if you look closely here, I don't know if I can zoom in or not. Yeah. This is Virginia creeper. It's a native vine that's in here as well. You can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lobes of the leaves that are there. But with crown vetch, here's what the flowers look like. And crown vetch is extremely invasive, and that's why it does such a great job of holding slopes and doing that way. But I do not recommend using it at all. But you'll see it in bloom in a lot of different places right now. But it is a non-native invasive here in Minnesota. So I'm going to check back and see any other questions. Okay, awesome. So we're going to keep going with some show and tell of pictures and things that we've got going on. This week, we yesterday released our latest podcast, so back into the podcasting world. So I'm really happy about that. So if you listen to podcasts, yesterday's is all about emerald ash borer. And so I have Ella Schultz is from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and she joins me to talk about emerald ash borer and just how terrible it is. So it's really, really sad. There's a ton of just like, this is a parking lot in St. Paul. And this year, because of emerald ash borer, but also because of all the stress that we've been seeing on trees the last 2 years with the really hot temperatures and really dry temperatures and the nasty drought, it has just taken a ton of trees. So this is an not uncommon sight, is to have just tons of dead trees everywhere. And so we're seeing a lot of them all over the metro in residential and commercial sites. You can see this one on the left here is dead. I wanted to have this one on the right because you can see how it's just really, really stressed and not doing well. And so you can see the tree that is just struggling. And so that's what a lot of them look like before they fully die on emerald ash borer. And so the other piece that I want to show, this is another one that's just, you can start to see how the crown is starting to thin out. You can also see there's a dead tree back here as well. And so after, so just so everybody knows, emerald ash borer is a nasty bug that came to Michigan from Asia. It started in Michigan in the early 2000s, and it has killed pretty much all the ash trees in Michigan. And Minnesota has the most ash trees of any state in the nation, and that's because a huge part of our northern woods are black ash, and so they will eventually, unless something changes drastically, all die. And so throughout the metro and southern Minnesota, and so the southeast basically quadrant of Minnesota is all experiencing emerald ash borer. And I would bet that it's pretty much everywhere by now. It's just that it's a lagging indicator to know what's happening. But what happens is the adult emerald ash borer is green and really pretty, and she lays eggs in the bark of ash trees, and then underneath of that bark, the larvae go and they just eat away all the xylem and phloem, which is what transports the nutrients and water and everything back and forth through the tree. So it just girdles and strangles it so it can't get any nutrients up and down. And so once that larva has grown enough and eaten enough, then it burrows its way out of the bark, and it's got this D-shaped hole. And I was actually pretty proud of this. This is the first time I've ever actually seen the D-shaped hole. They're usually way up high, but this one was lower. And so you can tell by that that's there. You can tell by the crown and the dieback. You can also tell, this is called blonding. And so what happens is the critters, so birds and other animals, those larvae are really good to eat for them. And so once they see a tree is struggling and they can sense a tree is struggling, they try and get the bark off so they can get at those larvae that are underneath there. And so this is called blonding. And so you can always tell that a tree has something going on when you see that action. So so that is there. So Emerald Ash Borer. So you can, if you go into the podcast tab, you can listen to the podcast, or anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can listen to that there. And yeah, so Emerald Ash Borer just makes me really sad because after Dutch elm disease came through, we replanted just millions of ash trees post post Dutch elm disease. So it's a really, really sad thing. Make sure when you're replacing trees, we put a good list in that podcast episode of things to replace your ash trees with, which are native native plants, trees that will support our local ecosystems, and that are a diverse mix of things. So like right now there are a lot of different diseases coming through with maples, and we have really, really overplanted maples as well. And so if there's something that really catches on with maples, then those are all toast as well. And we're even, which it's highly likely that something will with our changing climate and things are going on. So that's there. Just seeing if any questions or folks are on. Other couple things that wanted to chat with everybody about is making sure to water your trees. So gator bags are really, really helpful in watering trees. Those are, you put them around the base of the tree, and then you fill them with water, and then they slowly let the water drain. So you fill that up twice a week when it's dry, and that helps the plants do well. So that's there. Scape season. It's probably scape season in the northern folks now. My scapes were a little late this year because I didn't water my garlic, and so I feel bad for them. They're not doing so great because they're in a raised bed and they're really dry. So I've been doing a much better job of keeping them watered, and so the scapes came out after that. And so scapes are really, really tasty. I like to saute them, put them in eggs, that kind of thing. So scapes are great. This is another tree disease that is rolling through. We also have a podcast on this, all about oak wilt. So these are all red oaks, and oak wilt is just nasty, nasty, nasty fungus, and it gets into red oaks it flies in the back of a insect. And if the insect touches any sort of exposed, if you have a break, or if you have pruned something, or if a storm comes through and you have broken branches, if that bug senses that there's a wound on the tree, it lands on it, and it carries the oak wilt fungus on its back. And so with that, if your tree gets oak wilt, it will die within months. So fully grown trees, this is the Shakopee Dog Park. These are fully grown oak trees that are, 50, 60 years old, and they're just dead as a doornail, and it's super, super sad that we have these things that are happening. And with climate change, it is pushing more and more of these types of diseases. So we're going to see more and more of this as we go along. Seeing a lot of galls right now as well. So this is on a grapevine. Galls are little. That's a little spider down there, but it could be from the spider. But insects take and they inject their eggs into a leaf, and then that egg has hormones in it that causes these crazy growths on the leaf. And galls will never kill a tree or anything. This is an evolved piece, and so they grow these crazy, basically like cancerous type growths. And what they do is they protect the egg. And so once that egg hatches, and they have food that they can have some sort, but it's mostly just for protection. So then they burrow their way out, and they do fine from there. This is on a linden, some other galls, and so this is the top semi-leaf, and the galls are on the bottom side. You'll see some other stuff here for that. So galls are very, very rarely a problem. I think this is an aesthetic thing. A couple other things that we have going on this week is pinching off the potato flowers. So these are my potatoes. So you just want to pull off those flowers so they don't put energy into growing seeds, that they just put the energy into growing potatoes that we want to eat. And so plucking off those potato flowers, even though they're kind of pretty, I think they're a really interesting flower. There's also a weed called nightshade that is poisonous. So you'll get berries, and it's in the same family as potatoes. And it will have flowers that look very similar. So potatoes and tomatoes and peppers are all in the same family. And so they all have similar looking flowers like that. Also, the season of basil pinching. So if you want to add more basil and other herbs as well to grow on this type of stem, what you want to do is take that basil and pinch it back to where you've got two nodes coming out. So this little section right here, this little spot is called a node, N-O-D-E. And so this is where leaves come out. And so they always have an extra set of leaves that are able to grow from here. So if this leaf gets damaged, the plant can toss out more leaves right in this crotch between the main stem and the leaf. And so if you pinch this off here, this will force this leaf and this leaf to grow. And then you'll end up with right away what looks like a super, let's see where I pinched it off right there, super stubby guy. Don't mind all my weeds. But these will both grow, and you'll get twice as much basil out of the same plant. So you want to make sure to pinch those back and keep those rolling. And then last thing is, this is my picture of, it's not a great picture, I guess, of the cabbage butterfly egg. And so it's just a little yellow egg. They're random. They're not in any specific order, but they are on any sort of brassica. So kale, cabbages, broccoli, cauliflower, all those kinds of friends, you'll find it on there. And so all you need to do is just, when you see those on there, you just squish it, and life is good. So that is my pictures for today. Pull this out. So I'm just really interested to see how this is going for people. So if you're watching live, you're not watching live, would love to keep doing this if it makes sense, if there's a better time. So if you are watching this after it has gone live, make sure to use the chat to just let me know in the comments, to let me know if there's a better time that we can be doing this, that kind of thing, and roll with it from there, because I'd love for more people to be able to show up and have this really take off. So I'm going to go to a couple other questions that folks had asked me earlier. I gotta find my pen. Sorry, that was rude. Oh, there it is. So with questions that were submitted earlier this week. So we've got a couple of these, and one of them is about shrubs and pruning of shrubs and how that works. And so right now is a really good time to be pruning your shrubs. So you want to get it before all those plants harden off and before that gets there. So you want to take, and anything that is a multi-stem shrub, it's a good time to prune it now. So if you have hedges, if you have anything, this first flush of growth is done basically now that it's hot. And so go ahead and prune those shrubs now. If there's anything dead, pull those off. If there's anything that's crazy growth, pull those off. But the main thing is just make sure to be watching your plants and seeing what's going on, because as you have these plants, you want to make sure that you have the right plants in the right place. And so you really shouldn't have to be doing much pruning on shrubs if the right things are in the right place. And so if you want to make sure to have smaller shrubs that are between a sidewalk and a garage and that kind of thing along under windows. You want to make sure to have the right plants in the right place. And so if you need to replace things, we've got really good lists on here of at Minnesota Gardening of native plants that you can replace things with and how that goes. So right now is a really good time to be pruning, unless you're actually growing a hedge. I highly recommend using hedge trimmers. And so hedge trimmers, that long guy looks like a chainsaw, but it's for pruning shrubs. And what that does, that doesn't prune at the right places for plants, and so it can leave dead sticks and things like that. And it also is not a natural look at all, so it will cause the plant to grow in unnatural shapes and circles and whatever you got and whatever you, and if that's your aesthetic and that's what you love, then you have a more formal look, then have at it. But in general, that's a lot more difficult to maintain. You have to prune those often, every few weeks during the growing season, or once a month, elsewise, and take it from there. But when you're pruning shrubs, the same way I told you with that basil, is you want to make sure to prune down to right above the node. So where that plant has a leaf coming out, you want to prune right above that and cut it off there. So that helps, of course, new growth and to push new happy growth on there. So that is a good thing. Another question about tomatoes. So right now, your tomatoes are probably growing like crazy. And so they should be super healthy and happy. We've got tomatoes love hot weather. And so as long as you're getting them enough water, your tomatoes should be doing great. And so with that, we have a really good tutorial video on tomatoes. And so tomatoes need some support. So there are two types of tomatoes. There's a determinate tomato and an determinate tomato and an indeterminate tomato. And so with that, indeterminate tomatoes are ones that just continue to grow and continue to fruit, and they're vining basically. And so they don't have enough support to keep themselves upright, and so they need lots of support. And so I used to use like tomato cages. I don't recommend those. It is really difficult, especially with indeterminate tomatoes, to keep them upright because they can just get too top heavy, especially if you're growing any sort of bigger slicing tomatoes or juicing tomatoes, that kind of thing. So what I recommend highly is what's called a Florida weave. And so you set up 2 posts, and you can just go on minnesotagardening.com and search for Florida weave, and you can find that post and video showing all about it, but I'll explain it here a little bit. You put 2 posts in the ground on the opposite sides of your tomatoes, and you just string twine in between the 2. And so you just go back and forth between the tomatoes, and then you go back the other direction, and you prune everything off of the tomato that sticks out from there. So you keep it flat and compact and upright, and you keep supporting tomato that way. And so with that Florida weave is my favorite one. A lot of folks like to use cattle panels, and so growing up cattle panels and making sure that you are weaving them back and forth through the cattle panel, giving support, and then pruning them off is not such a huge deal to me. If it's getting big and heavy, you can prune it off, but you don't need to in the exact same way. So as we talked about those nodes, tomatoes send shoots up in that leaf crotch, and so through that center area. And if it's doing that too much, you can prune it off. But if it's not, don't worry about it. Let it grow. As long as you're giving it support, she will be fine. Once you get toward August, September, you'll probably need to cut the tops off your tomatoes so that they stop growing up, and they just put energy into growing more fruit so that they all mature as it goes there. So this question about tomatoes, and then the other one is people are having issues with germination this season, and I'm having the same thing. I have some seeds that just have not germinated, and the only thing I can think of is I've been pretty good about watering them consistently and making sure that they've been watered, and I just assume it's the heat that is causing problems. So I've carrots always give me issues, and so carrots, I haven't had a single carrot germinate, and so I'm going to do another fall after I get back from vacation, do a fall planting of carrots and that. But things that are normal, like my edamame, just isn't coming up, and I've done a good job of watering it, and I don't know what its issue is. So I'm assuming it's just the heat, and it's cranky, and it is not doing well. So there are a lot of seeds that just aren't germinating well. And it's all new seed that I've gotten. So it is also across the board. So I'm not sure exactly what the issue is there, but I'm going to keep trying and we'll see what we can get. So those are the questions I have had. And then I wanted to do one more thing for everybody is just to go through and show folks. Did I do something again? It's not letting me show the screen, sorry. At least I'm not seeing it on my end. Try this again. I don't know why it's not working. All right, well, we're not going to worry about that. I was going to show you, explore a little around Minnesota gardening, but I'll save that for next week. So this is our second to last one of these in June. So again, if you have ideas as to what should be covered and where things go, would love to hear feedback from everybody and would love to understand where everybody's at. And oh, here, it decided I wanted to do it. All right. So we're going to go to minnesotagardening.com. Shows that we're live here. And sign in. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to show you. So as if you're not signed in, this is what you see as our main feed. And so it's the feed up here. There are different things that you can look at that are all here without being logged in or anything. So the main feed just shows you the most popular things that are going on in our community side of Minnesota Gardening. So those are there. You can click on community, and this shows the things that are happening within the community on the free side of everything. So lightning bug has a parasite on it. So watering your trees, that kind of thing. It's got all the podcasts are all listed here. And then the Q&A is also in the free section, in the community section there. And then there's the Minnesota Gardening Club. So you can join the Minnesota Gardening Club for $10 a month. And so let me sign in and show you what you get differently that way. And so this is once you're signed in, this shows you new things that are here as a welcome checklist on things. But the Minnesota Gardening Club side has a lot of different posts about different, it's got a ton of photos and information about different plants. So this is Virginia Creeper that I was talking about earlier. So it's got a lot of different plants on here. It's got a lot of community members can ask questions on here, and I personally answer all the questions. There's the crown vetch we talked about earlier, and lots of different things. It also has each week. So this week, find it here, but it has what you need to be doing each week of the year. So like this past week was watering your trees. This weekend coming up is making sure to prune around your air conditioner and making sure that those kinds of things get done. So it has just tons and tons of information on here that's not available on the free side that you can get when you just subscribe to the Minnesota Gardening Club. And so there's that. There's also the gardening foundations, which we'll be talking more about as it comes up here. And so it has classes on sustainable gardening. So it adds is there for everybody. So there's just lots and lots of good stuff that supports the work we're doing, and we'd love to have people be a member. So that is that. So I will go from here. Thanks, Elise, for being here. I appreciate it. And if anybody has questions or comments and things, just make sure to leave it in the comment section. And love you all. Have a great day.